Hey there, City of Heroes fans. The day you've been awaiting is finally here. It is E3, and as Statesman promised, I'm going to show you all the latest and greatest of the game. So there have been a lot of great changes in the past few months, and this is the start of letting the cat out of the bag, as I said on the website. So let's start with character creation. Now, as before, we had origins. Origins determine where a super being gets his power. Well, instead of having the 7, we've collapsed them down to 5. We had 2 basic origins, which essentially were the same, that is, technology. The same thing with magic. We had the Mystic Relic and magical powers. So we've collapsed them down, simplified them to 5. The other thing we've done is remove the number of powers and all the other various limitations and advantages that those origins gave. Instead, what we've done is we've given them origin bonuses. Now, these origin bonuses affect the types of awards that players will get while they're playing. Now, I'll get back to what these awards are in just a little bit. Now, the second thing a player does is he chooses his archetype. And I know, you're in shock. What's an archetype? Well, an archetype basically helps a player understand what his role is. What we found in playtesting is that people who weren't familiar with the idea of building a hero from scratch, well, it was too easy for them to select powers which did nothing, and they ended up gimping themselves. It was also too easy for somebody who really know what they do to design the perfect character who didn't need to team up. It was basically what we call in the industry a tank mage. We didn't want to do the character class route, but we did want to do something that reflected what heroes were all about, and archetypes are perfect. When you open up the pages of a comic book today, heroes tend to fall into some basic categories. Now, up on the screen, as you can see, there's 4 listed. The first is the blaster. This is the guy who's great at offense, but if you just tap him on the head, he goes unconscious. So he can hurl things at a distance, and he's really good up close, but you just can't take it. Then there's the defender, who's a long-range support specialist. Doesn't like to get into hand-to-hand. The Scrapper is the best at what he does. The Scrapper is amazing in hand-to-hand combat. He's very good. He can last a while. But lastly, there's the Tanker. And he is the big, strong, tough guy, invulnerable to most attacks. And he's also very good, but not quite as deadly as the Scrapper is in a hand-to-hand. Now, there's a 5th category called the Controller. I don't want to talk too much about that yet, but it will be coming down the pipe. So you can have a combination of any archetype and any origin. The archetypes determine the types of powers that you'll receive. So I'm going to just pick a blaster right now and walk you through that. Now you see in the left-hand column 3 powers listed. They're actually not powers, they're power sets. So when I select Energy Blast, there are 9 different variations of Power Blast. Each of these is virtually equivalent in their overall power, but they're each different strategically and tactically in use. What this means is that as a player becomes more powerful, gains access to more powers, and learns more powers, then he gets more decisions to make during combat. You won't have to purchase over and over again variations of each of these powers that are simply more powerful or do more damage. Those come automatically over time. Every single archetype chooses a primary power set, the power they're best at, and a secondary power set, the power they're not quite as good at, but still pretty darn good. These are the 2 powers that the hero will forever be known for. So I'm going to choose Energy Blast right now. You see there's Ice Blast, also Fire Blast. Most characters have somewhere between 5 and 8 power sets to choose from in their primary and secondary categories. Oh yeah, one more thing. These power sets are not all the same as one another. So what a Tanker has for his melee powers isn't necessarily the same as a Scrapper. There's some crossover, but not a ton of crossover. So I'm going to choose Power Blast. And now I'm going to choose the secondary power, Super Strength. Now, Super Strength brings up a really good point. We don't have attributes anymore. Everything is reduced down to the powers that hero has. So if you want super agility, you actually choose that power in either your primary or secondary power sets. So I'm choosing a Super Punch and an Energy Blast. Whoop. Now, as before, we have 3 variations of avatars. That hasn't changed. One thing we have added to costume creation, even more choices and selections, but the random costume button, which makes costume creating a lot of fun. If not to help get you a good costume, you can get a heck of a whack one too. So let me just go through a couple of times so you can see the different stuff we have available. That looks good. I'm going to go right into the game and show you a little bit of Paragon City and what's changed. Now,